Warning: the views and opinions expressed in this program are our own and/or those of our guests. They do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of our employers. Viewers' discretion is advised.
You've got market makers and you've got market takers.
I hate to say it, but the big banks are the worst when it comes to that type of stuff.
Execution on your deal isn't the main thing, it's the only thing.
Alan, why do you think some BDOs choose to price deals too low, even when it's not sustainable? Is this a viable long-term strategy?
You should win, the broker should win, and the bank should win, and the customer should win. Everybody should win in this situation.
Promise I'm not being petty. I'm the one they envy, Brody, moving state to state. Make $1 million out to send me, plus I grinded from the start. I was stacking pennies, I might dip like Machiavelli. After the confetti, who ready? We ready? Who ready? We ready? Who ready? Who? We ready? Who? Who ready? Who? We ready? Who? Who ready? We ready? Who ready? We ready? Who ready? Who? We ready? Who? Who ready? Who? We ready? Who?
I just had one of those days. So I was sick as a dog yesterday. So the good news is our cross country team, boys and girls, this past weekend, they qualified for states. So this is the second year in a row, second time in school history that both the entire boys and girls teams go to states, right?
That's amazing.
Nice.
Our girls are defending champions. They're defending regional champions. The boys took second place, so they get to go to states. And then half the team gets sick this weekend. I'm like, what the heck are you guys doing? Stop kissing each other. Stop diddying around and, focus. All right, this is why you guys are getting sick. And then what happens? I get sick. I get sick on Monday. It just like hit me, dude, like a rock, dude. I've been coughing, and I'm running the New York City Marathon here this Sunday. So I'm like, okay, here we go again, right? And so, I missed practice yesterday, so it's like a captain's practice, and the other coaches they're doing their thing, and I get to show up today, and we got a full team, but half of everybody is still sick. Coaching high school kids is a lot of fun because they kind of get your inside jokes, your adult humor. So they were messing around today, and they were doing dips on the bleachers, and one of the other kids was messing around and sat on his lap. I said, "Those aren't dips; those are diddy dips."
Oh my God.
It's just like that. Coach Kroge was canceled.
Was fired. He's gone. Fire that guy.
Oh, man.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the BDO Show, a podcast for passionate BDOs wanting to level up their game with advice and stories from battle-tested BDOs. I'm your co-host, Emily Detour, and I'm here with Alan Peterson, Sterling Birdsong, and Ryan Kroge. At the beginning of each episode, we will remind you to smash that like button and go ahead and send your topics and suggestions in to the BDO Show at artofsba.com. And don't forget to check out our whole family of shows, including SBA Today, which airs live every week on LinkedIn, along with our flagship program, the Art of SBA Lending Podcast.
Since episode 1, we have been talking about education, educating yourself on your shop, your deal, and your vendor relationships. We literally just talked about this on episode 11, that choosing the right partners to work with is a critical part of your success as a BDO. And since we don't gatekeep around here, let's talk about a fan favorite. The guys have had nothing but good things to say about peak business valuation. I also decided to do my own investigation, and what I learned was that the last year alone, Peak did 1,100 SBA business valuations and turned them around in just 5 business days. Most importantly, they're easy to work with. The Peak team is always happy to jump on a call to discuss evaluation. They not only explain how they arrived at the concluded value, but are also open to receiving any new information that potentially changes the concluded value. The staff is knowledgeable, fast, professional, and the communication is top-notch. If you want to be the best, you have to work with the best. It's as simple as that. Reach out to Ryan at peakbusinessvaluation.com or call him at 435-359-2684. Let Peak Business Valuation help you build an SBA lending team that thrives.
Okay, guys, today, and I heard you all are pretty excited to talk about this topic, which I love when we get excited about topics. We are going to be talking about price wars, aligning pricing with risk in SBA lending. I don't know much about that because I'm not a BDO. So why don't I let Mr. Alan Peterson kick off the conversation? Why don't we talk about what aligning pricing means. Let's put it in terms of risk and surround it with the SBA world.
When it comes to pricing and opportunity, there's a lot of factors that come into play. And I believe that the rate or the overall cost of capital should be a direct reflection of that risk that you're taking on. It's not necessarily as simple as there's real estate in the deal or there isn't, but really cash flow, right? We've got direct industry experience, strong cash flow. Maybe there's a building with the transaction. Ryan, I know you do a ton of deals like that. Sterling, you as well, right? When you can check all those boxes, very often it can warrant more aggressive or attractive pricing. But also ultimately, there's a lot of different models for different banks and different shops. You know, where I'm not going to be at prime plus zero fixed. It's not our model. It's not what we do. However, we're able to get home on a lot of opportunities that other banks simply can't or won't. For that reason, I believe that there's a justification of pricing. And most of the folks in the space now that I see are prime plus 3, prime plus 275, prime plus 2.5, depending on different variables. But ultimately, the way I personally price a deal is based on risk defined by cash flow, experience, the quality of the guarantor from their credit score onward, and also how competitive the deal is going to be. You know, I would hate to lose a really strong deal by overpricing, but at the same time, I need to remain aligned with the way the bank wants to operate and the way they primarily like to see opportunities priced. What do you guys think about that at a high level? I mean, it's kind of a canned response.
I tell all my customers that it's all risk-based pricing. Okay. If I get a transaction, I take a look at it. I'm like, wow, this is phenomenal. It cash flows really well. We got good collateral. We got a great buyer, good guarantor support, a deal that would get done at any bank. I'm gonna sharpen my pencil. I have to. The risk is low. Everybody's going to be salivating and fighting over this deal. So I have to sharpen my pencil.
Say sharpen my pencil one more time.
Sharpen my pencil. And you know what? I don't do a sharpen my pencil with the electric. I go and get the knuckle buster on the wall and sharpen my pencil. All right.
I saw a meme one time that was like, that's how you used to flex in middle school to show off your new outfit or sneakers. You would get up to go just sharpen a pencil.
Absolutely. Got to show off my new J's. I just walk straight to the front of the class and you can sharpen my number 2. But if there's a deal, and being a local guy, there are certain transactions, there are certain deals that I just know the business. I know the business, I know the seller, I know how it operates, and I know no other financial institution is going to get it done. And so I'm going to price it accordingly. I'm going to price it based on the risk and based on the market scarcity of competition in that. Now, they're going to go ahead and try to take the Pepsi challenge. They're going to go out there and they're going to go to these large institutions and get these promo rates from these market takers, right? That I've mentioned before, these BDOs. They don't sell, they don't consult, they don't build relationships. They just go out there with the lowest rate possible and take, right. They're not BDOs, they're specialists. And so I let them take it, let them run with it till it gets up to the RCO level or their committee level and it gets declined. The problem with that is they just wasted 2 months trying to chase after this low rate. And now they're back in my corner saying, Ryan, can you help me? Ryan, can you bail me out? And now I'm under the gun. But I know the risk involved and I'm going to price it accordingly. It's not about, I like this type of business, so I'm going to throw a quarter point off. No, it's all risk-based pricing. If it's a deal that I know everybody's going to fight over, sharpen the pencil. If it's a deal that you sit back and say, I know it'll fit our credit box, but we got some work to do, then you have to price it accordingly.
Yeah, if you're a customer and you're listening to this, the market will effectively tell you how strong your deal is by the interest rates that you're able to get with your deal. Because as mentioned before, this is risk-based pricing. So, not saying that you need to shop too heavily and talk to 10 banks, but if you talk to 3 or 4, you're going to find out pretty quickly how strong of a transaction you have when all of a sudden you start to see the pricing drop a little bit. Maybe somebody lost the 2 all of a sudden on their keyboard and you see a 1 above your prime rate there. I even know some banks out there that are doing prime minus right now. So, there's all different types of banks out there in the market. And if you're a lender out there, you just also have to know what it is that you're selling, right? If you're someone who works for a prime plus 2.75 or prime plus 3 shop, well, your shop needs to be a little bit more flexible than the guy who's selling prime minus. Your shop should probably be a little bit faster and have a little bit better of a total customer service aspect to it than the guy who's selling prime minus, right? Because you have to win on other aspects of the deal besides pricing, right? So whereas if you're somebody who is selling prime minus, just be aware that your bank is probably really looking for A plus paper. They're probably looking for conventional deals that they can slap an SBA guarantee on, right? So, risk-based pricing is a beautiful thing because there's all types of banks on the spectrum, but there's all types of deals on the spectrum too. And so, don't be afraid to hold rates at prime plus 2.75 or prime plus 3, because eventually, if you're in the right bank, you will find the deals that fit that pricing metric that still makes sense for the bank and also makes sense for the customer as well.
And look, this goes back to having a broker or having a loan broker that knows the market and knows the banks and knows what the banks are going to price individually. They'll take a look at your loan and they'll say, oh man, this has got a lot of hair on it. I know Al is going to be the one that's going to be able to take care of it. He's going to price it higher. He's going to be at prime plus 2.75, but I know he's going to get it done. And they're going to be able to talk to the clientele and help them make that decision, as opposed to having them be on LinkedIn or whatever social media saying, oh, well, so-and-so is doing prime plus 1 or prime minus. I saw prime minus the other day, blew my mind. Prime minus a half. Yeah, but you know what? Your transaction is not a prime minus a half. It's 10-year paper. It's been profitable for only 1 year. You've got barely a couple bucks to your name. You're not going to get that pricing. Having a realistic conversation and explaining why you're at prime plus 2.75, or heck, even having a realistic conversation saying, hey, I dropped you. I shaved a half a point off. You're at prime plus 2.25, or you're at prime plus 2 flat, because these are the strengths that I see and I really want to win your business. So I'm making some concessions so that I can win this, because I know this will get done at any other bank. But I'll tell you what, I've got this process that's going to be able to win it. And you could just ask any of the brokers that you're talking to that I'm the guy to make it happen. You got to have that confidence. You got to have that relationship, and you've got to have that network to back it up, because you can't just go out there slinging words and thinking that everybody else is going to back you up if they don't know you.
Alan, why do you think some BDOs choose to price deals too low, even when it's not sustainable? Is this a viable long-term strategy?
No, absolutely it's not. I think that, when it comes to pricing, and even when the situation happens when we inherit a deal, like Ryan was just kind of alluding to, they go through the motions chasing prime minus whatever. 60 days go by, and then they want to come back and play ball. Ultimately, they've learned the hard way the value in execution. I often say that execution on your deal isn't the main thing, it's the only thing, right? And for that execution, there's a value there. If you are consistently pricing low to get a deal off the street and not getting home on it, that's a great way to burn your bridges quickly. And word gets around quickly on that, right? You'd rather be the guy that gets home 50 basis points higher, but you're getting home on the deal all the time, than the individual who can put out some attractive paper that's never going to execute. I mean, there's so much nonsense. We see it all the time. I think, Sterling, you'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
I hate to say it, but the big banks are the worst when it comes to that type of stuff. They'll show you the craziest rate you've ever seen on an SBA deal in your life, but I mean, it'll be 8 months later and you still haven't closed. And I mean, that's just not feasible for most normal transactions. A regular person doesn't have 8 months. A seller's not going to wait around, whether it's business or real estate. I mean, it's not a real thing. And you see it happen so frequently with some people who, they get 6 months down the line just to get denied. Right. And they've just been out there and they've been wasting time. And so, no, it is something that you see out there in the market all the time. And so, yeah, if you're somebody who's, looking for SBA financing, and you happen to be listening to this podcast, what I would say is, don't just go for the teaser rate. Don't just go for, the most attractive rate that you can find. Go for the person who's going to get your deal done. A deal that's actually closed at prime plus 2.5 is better than one that never closed at prime plus 1. Right. That's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. And there's something else I will say to the BDOs out here who are listening. If you're a BDO and your commission is based on how much you price above spread, and you're giving all of your commission away, and then you're paying a broker 2% because, you just feel like you have to get deals in. And so you're giving away additional commission on top of the commission that you're already giving away by cutting your rate. You are soft.
You're soft. Get out the business.
You need to really think about what it is that you're doing. Okay. Remember that this should be a symbiotic relationship for all parties. You should win, the broker should win, and the bank should win, and the customer should win. Everybody should win in this situation. So if you're giving away rate just to stay alive, if you're giving away BIPs to brokers just to stay alive, and essentially you're walking away with nothing when you close loans, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's great. And that I couldn't have said it better myself. And I said it earlier, and I said it in other podcasts. You've got market makers and you've got market takers. And a lot of these BDOs that work for big shops, or these shops that have these below prime or prime plus one type rates, or they just, their comp plan really doesn't determine based on pricing, right? They're just out there desperate to try to bring business in. And most of them are young, most of them are inexperienced, and most of them are just grabbing at straws, and they're just taking whatever their business banker or whatever the branches are bringing in and slapping on their desk, because they're looking at deals all day long. They don't have a financial background. They don't have a credit background. They don't know how to read financial statements. They're slapping it together, throwing it into credit. And this is why I like going against a lot of my competition here locally, especially the big boys, is because they're just filled with, they don't even call them BDOs because they don't develop business, right? They call them specialists because they know the product, and that's about it. They don't develop business. Everything just comes across their desk and they just start writing it, slapping it into credit. And then credit has to come back, completely restructure the deal, completely change everything around, and then put it back to the specialist to go back out there and try to sell it. Well, what happens is now you leave a bad taste in the customer's mouth. You're screwing everything up, but more importantly, you're killing the market. I can't tell you how many times I've seen transactions. They'll just walk away from the deal if they don't get that special rate that the bank is offering, because they got lured in and they were just on that, knowing that it was even out there and even offered, even though their transaction and their risk was far too high to warrant that type of a rate. And even that financial institution, once they wasted 2 months and it got the credit, told them, you're not getting this rate because we're not even doing the deal. They'll just walk away because psychologically, if they can't have that rate, they don't want the transaction. And it's blowing my mind how much I'm seeing that out there right now in the market.
And if you're a customer and you're out there and you need that special rate to make your deal work, you might want to think about whether or not the deal is still a good deal. If you have to have prime minus to make your deal cash flow, then you really need to think about whether or not that's someplace that you should be putting your capital in the first place, right? Especially if it's a biz act. If it's real estate, that's different. There's different asset classes, obviously, self-storage or whatever it may be. Some of those deals still obviously pencil at those lower rates. But if you need a biz act to be priced at, prime -1 in order for you to be able to make it cash flow, you're really skating pretty thin there, I would say.
You're talking about the, the asset class and all that stuff. And, is this where you should deploy your capital? Let's not forget, is this where you should sign on the line on an unconditional guarantee on a Fed backed program? You know what I mean? Like that,
Right.
That's like the tough talk sometimes as well that you have to have. It's like, forget about, execution and all that. Listen, if you've got 4 verifiable periods of 1.7 DSCR, 850 FICO, 20% post-close liquidity, I don't know that you're my customer either. You know what I mean? And that might be a little bit of a hot take. I'll make a run at that paper, but I'm certainly not going to be at, prime even, fixed. It's just not my customer.
Yeah, I mean, I'll happily do your deal. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to turn you away because you're strong.
Right.
But in reality, like I said, if you're a customer and you talk to enough banks, the market will tell you how strong your deal is.
Right.
Because you'll start getting back paper that's cheaper than Al's or cheaper than mine or cheaper than Ryan's. What I tell customers when they come back to me and they have a spectacular rate, I tell them to take it.
Absolutely.
Who am I to stand between you and a good deal? Who am I to stand between you and low price paper that's going to make your deal cash flow better for you and your family? I'm not going to tell you not to do that. I'm going to give you good advice.
As a side note, I can't tell you. So there's 2 telephone calls that I've had, and they're consistent, reoccurring themes. where they'll call me up and we're talking on the phone, we're talking about structure, we're talking about the type of deal, and then they cut you off and go, so where's your interest rate? And I'll tell them, well, on a transaction like this, I'm easily at prime plus 2.75. Ooh, that's really high. Okay, that's actually the market, especially for this transaction. If you can find a better deal, if you can find a better rate, I implore you to go and get it. Go and grab it. Really? The surprise that they get on the other line. Look, for a lot of seasoned BDOs, you're not slick. If you're a customer listening, we know what the market's going to dictate. We know what your transaction should be priced at. We've been doing this a long time. And if you've got every BDO, every broker, every attorney, every CPA saying, go to this BDO, he's going to get this done, there's a reason for that. And when you go there and you're trying to play the rate game, say, oh, you're so high, I can get 8.5 over here. If you could get 8.5, go for it. Really? The really I get on the other line is just they act like that's shocking. No, it's not shocking. If you can get it, I implore you, go and get it. That's a fantastic rate. You won't get it anywhere else, but I know these deals. I know the market. I know the transaction. This is a high risk transaction. It deserves prime 2.75, and that's why we do it. That's why we're in this game.
The thing that kills me is customers when they know that they have a weak deal and they're in a weak bargaining position and they still try and negotiate like super hard. Like
Right.
I had a guy the other day who came to me for, he needed working capital because he had none. Second of all, your credit score was in the mid 600s, right? And you're coming at me and you're saying, hey, like, I want a $500,000 loan, which, we still do those SBSS score loans over here, Kroge. Every once in a while we'll do those. I give him the term sheet, right? It's prime plus 3. And he's like, whoa, why would I ever sign up for prime plus 3%? That's way too high. This is astronomical. I want to work with you because you were recommended by somebody I know, but I just can't pay prime plus 3%. I said, listen, this is the rate.
Right.
Either you want to take this rate or you can go somewhere else. But I'll be very honest. I don't think that other banks are going to even get your loan done, let alone get it done at a cheaper rate. So he says, okay, fine, whatever. I'll sign. I said, okay, cool. Once you sign, go ahead and send over the expense deposit. He's like, an expense deposit? Why would I send you money before I know if I'm even going to get approved? And I'm just like, dude, you know what? If you don't like the way I do business, leave. If you don't like the way that we work here and you want to go work with somebody else, go work with somebody else. But no one's holding your feet to the fire here. I'm the one who's trying to help you get funding for your business when you already have a poor credit score and you already spent all your cash so you're in a bad situation. I'm literally trying to do you a favor right now, and you're fighting me every step of the way. And so it's like, if you're a BDO out there and you have people who are like that, who are going to waste your time, you do not have to deal with them. Okay. You can say no. You can tell them they can go somewhere else. And I promise you it will be okay. I promise you the next deal's around the corner.
I feel like the calm approach of saying like, you can go, it is okay, would make them be like, wait, now I kind of don't want to. Why are you telling me to go?
It's like the takeaway close. It's like indifference, like as far as like sales techniques, but they're not even sales techniques. It's just the reality. It's planet Earth.
If like you're right this now in the beginning of the loan, I can't even imagine how the life of this thing is going to look. You're going to be a nightmare the whole time.
So if you remember what I said about deals that won't close, what did I say? Is that people who ask for concessions early in the process, that is a canary in the coal mine for a deal that's never going to make it to the finish line. And sure enough, the guy never made it to the finish line.
Well, Sterling, how about in episode like 7 or whatever, you talked about when people are coming to you for money, and this is for my BDOs listening out there, when people are coming to you with a loan request, this is the nicest they're ever going to be to you, right?
Sure.
So if they're coming out of the gate with a bunch of nonsense, imagine what closing's going to be like. Like, is it worth your time? What value are you providing? Are you an order taker? Right? Or are you going to get in the weeds and show a structure of a loan that's going to work? Are you going to give meaningful feedback on an LOI with good suggestions in why something might not be SBA eligible? Are you going to be upfront about the fact that, we're going to have to take that real estate as collateral because there is enough available equity? Or are you going to leave it off the term sheet and pop it like a surprise 30 days later and say, oh, by the way, we're going to need to put a lien on your property? Because I see that too, right? Recently, I had one where I had a borrower that I'd already worked with looking to do their second acquisition. They came to me, of course. It was great. hey, Alan, I just want you to know I was approached on LinkedIn, prime plus one fixed on 10-year paper. Can you get to two? Can you get to 2.25 and make sure that I get to use the same closer that closed our last deal? They understand that value. And needless to say, we won the paper 2.5, but we were able to win and show that value because I've created value. I've created a justification, and that's what it's all about, right? You don't want to just be an order taker, man. Like, that's not what this is about. How useful and helpful are you really being to your clients if you're simply pumping paper that doesn't make any sense? Like you said, right? That you're not a business development officer at that point. You're not a trusted advisor or consultant. You're somebody that knows how to control F the SOP. And that's a great start. Okay. But if you're going to grow and you're going to have a long career in this, you got to be able to create value, and you got to be able to stand on a little bit of business like Boss Man D'Lo does.
And you have to build your brand. You got to build your brand. You got to build your name. Like Bruce Marks said last week, he said, Ryan, you're known as the retail guy. People around the country say you got a C-store, grocery store, anything retail, you send it to Kroge. And most of the brokers that I know, especially here locally, because 85, 90% of my deals are still in Michigan. It's like, oh, you got a retail facility, you got food and beverage, you got to go to Kroge. I know those businesses really well. I know their margins. I know the way they operate. I know where their labor costs should be. So I can really tear through them quickly and be a consulting force to that buyer and say, you know what? This has some issues because their margins aren't where they're supposed to be. They may be buying their food and their beverage from somewhere that's overcharging them. They need to change things here and there. Find me something within these costs that you are going to do better to make this business better. And that's how I consult them to write their business plan and make the deal work. I mean, it's not rocket science, guys. You just have to know the business. You have to know what they're going to do. And then more importantly, prove it to your bank. Prove it to your bank. I've had underwriters at our bank call me up with a transaction, like a restaurant or a gas station that another BDO is doing, say, hey, Ryan, you've done a couple of these. What do you think about this? And BDOs have done the same. And I'll give them my honest opinion and my honest feedback. But, something else, a big M&A in a field that I don't understand, Alan, I'm calling you or Jared because that's not my cup of tea. It's not what I specialize in. But you've got to build a reputation, a good reputation in the market for what you specialize in, how well you do it, and more importantly, that you're known for executing and closing, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to be the guy, he knows food and beverages, but he can't close a door. You don't want to be known as that guy. Yeah.
Right.
We just pulled in so many points from so many different episodes we've done. Protecting your time. You're not order takers. Make sure you know what you need and know what you want, especially for your borrowers, for your bank. Building your brand. People are coming to you guys for a reason. They're not just, being thrown to you because you don't know what you're doing. Your tribe. Alan got asked to use that same closer again because everything was so smooth. Knowing your deal, big one, huge one. And then why some BDOs fail is because there's this going back and forth. And then on top of it, what we stress every single episode, communication with your borrower, with your bank, with everybody around you.
And all that goes back to pricing, right?
Yes.
Because how a BDO does one thing is how a BDO does everything, right?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey, throw that in there too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Chris Hackney.
Yeah, I miss
We
him.
miss
I
you.
can't wait
For
to
sure,
see him
man.
again.
One of the questions I was going to ask next was advice for BDOs when they feel pressured to match lowering prices from competitors because say they just got that deal, it was a decline from another lender and now they got it and now they're battling with the customer and like how do they get through that pressure of pricing it correctly?
Two things. Know your deal and stand your ground. All right? Know the deal. Is this a deal that needs to be priced a certain way? And price it accordingly based on the market. And then once you do, stand your ground. This is what it is. This is what I think the market calls for your type of transaction. And this is where we're going to price it. And then let them take the Pepsi challenge elsewhere. Because more than likely, if it didn't come from a referral source that sends you everything or that is loyal to you and knows he's already talked up that borrower, he's already been to other banks that have declined him. So stand your ground and know your deal.
There's nothing wrong with dropping rate a little bit if it makes sense, right? It's all about, like Ryan said, knowing the deal. I mean, if it's a strong deal and it makes sense, and you know that you're going to be able to get home on it, I'd still rather have a deal at, prime plus 2.25, than not have a deal at all, right? You got to know what hills to die on and what hills not to die on. You also have to know how your bank operates. Is your bank going to be okay with you pricing it prime plus 1.5 or prime plus 2 or whatever it is that you need to be at to be able to win a deal? Is that even okay for you to do? If I did a deal at Credit Bench at prime plus 1%, I think I might owe the bank money when I closed.
That was the license plate thing. I caught some heat on LinkedIn. Some wise guy had an opinion on the fact that my license plate is PT75. The real behind the music on that is I was pricing too low, and Hackney made me do that, so I didn't forget the way we price around here. You know what I'm saying? So that's not about getting over on somebody. That's about me carrying the right flag. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with doing something that makes sense. Because again, it's about everybody should win, right? So the customer's included in that, the bank's included in that, you're included in that as the lender, the broker's included in that. It's about everybody trying to find a way to make a deal structure that makes sense for all parties. And so if that means that is you as the BDO that you have to drop rate a little bit, as long as you're not giving the house away, as long as you're not giving all of your commission away, as long as it's a deal that warrants the pricing, do it. Find a way to win the deal and find a way to get it done.
And you need to have that attitude of abundance, right? So to answer Emily's kind of question up front, abundance, right? It's like, how do you deal with that pressure? Well, personally, I would suggest going into the bathroom, getting some cold water running, splashing it on your face, and looking in the mirror and figuring out exactly who you are, what you do, what you can do, what you cannot do, and what value are you bringing to the table. If you know that you're checking all those boxes, then stand on your business and get the deal done and make sure it closes, make sure it funds, and go out and get the next one. I mean, if people are going to walk, that's okay, but you need to have that understanding that the next deal is coming. And for you to spin your wheels, I wish I get to prime one, just to, all this nonsense while you're doing all that internal deliberation and you're debating with yourself and you're squandering time that you could be using going to find some paper that's going to close at the right rate. That's the way I really feel about it.
Go get you some money.
That's right.
Yeah, and know your floor, know your walkaway number.
That's it. That's it.
It's different for every deal. It's different for every bank. But maybe what that number is. Like for me, I really never try to go less than prime plus 2. And to be honest, I don't think I've done a deal at prime plus 2 this year, but I certainly have not done a deal at prime plus 1.75 in God knows how long. It's been years. And again, it's not that there's anything wrong with deals that are priced that way, and there's lenders that price that way, and there's deals that deserve to be priced that way. There's no doubt about that. But I have to know what works for me, and I have to know what works for my bank. And for me, that stops around prime plus 2%.
I'm pretty much the same way. And the only other thing I'm going to add is sometimes you need to take priority of relationships over paychecks. All right. If you've got a referral source, like I have a referral source that consistently, and when I say consistently, I mean for the last 10 to 12 years has sent me more than $10 million a year. All right. If he's got a deal that says, Ryan, we really need to take care of this guy. We need to sharpen it. Oh, I'm going to take it and I'm going to take care of him. I'm not going to do it on every deal, and he's not going to take advantage of that. But when he has something that he's building a relationship and he knows it's good for me, I'm going to take care of him. Guy sends me $10 to $15 million a year. I'm going to make sure that his customers love him. And I'm going to take that seriously.
And he probably sends consistent packages, easy to look through, nothing crazy. Yeah.
And he's right here in my office too. It's great.
So
that's kind of nice.
Don't let him know about 2%. He might have to move down the hallway.
I've known him since high school. He's loyal. That's 30 years if you're counting, Emily.
I stopped counting, and I'm done making fun of your age for the rest of it. I'm just kidding.
That's awesome.
I'm really not. Never.
Oh, damn.
I didn't get an old man zinger in this episode. That really stinks.
No, you didn't, especially when I was ranting earlier. I went on my old man rant.
Oh, you were getting kind of G about that rant. I'm not gonna lie, like that was going down. I thought you were gonna smash something. But what I was gonna say was, so let's give a little bit of parting advice to the new BDOs who are gonna come up against these scenarios with borrowers, with their banks, with other lenders? Just give them a quick parting advice on how to handle it and how to keep their cool.
Yeah, know your pricing metrics, right? Or your pricing matrix if you have one of those, like we do at Bay First, where it's like, hey, I know if I'm at prime +3, my commission is this. I know if I'm at prime +2.5, my commission is that. I know if I'm paying a broker 1%, I'm going to get X. If I pay a broker more than that, I'm going to get Y. Know what you're actually going to be making when you price these loans, because in a way, that's also your bank kind of telling you, hey, here's how we want you to price your loans.
That's
right.
good.
They're rewarding you for the way that you price your loans. And so make sure that you understand those metrics, and then that will let you to kind of develop your own pricing box in your head. Similar to how a bank has a credit box, you have a pricing box, and that's in your head, and you know what's going to fall inside of that box and what's going to fall outside of that box. And if it falls outside of that box, it's okay to let somebody go and find something that makes more sense for them. And then you go and you move on to a loan that makes more sense for you.
Never get desperate. Have confidence in your ability to execute. Make sure that you understand your bank, the appetite of your bank, the process at your bank. Show value that is undeniable to the borrowers. And if it's not your deal and you lose the deal, just keep pushing. Because when you take care of people and do the next right thing, everything will take care of itself.
Build your relationships. Build your relationships and build your brand. You are going to find yourself within a niche, or you're going to find yourself within a community that you know you can tackle really, really well. And you know they do deals that you will get done at your financial institution. And you're going to build that network. You're going to build those referral sources. Build them well, treat them well. If you're local, like I am, take them out to baseball games, take them out to lunches, to dinner, take them to Ocean Prime, take them to Meat Market. We don't have those up here in Michigan, so I'll just take them to wherever I can. But, treat your people the way they treat you. They're going to send you business. I got a guy down the hall, I was just saying, he sends me almost $15 million every single year. I treat him like gold. I buy his staff lunch actually, I buy him dinner during tax season, because they're here till 9:00 at night. I'll leave around 5, 6 o'clock. I'll come back at 7 with a catered dinner. Why? Because these guys walk down to my office when they have a prospect sitting in theirs and say, hey, he's thinking about selling. What can you finance for their business? And I enjoy that. I like that. And I'm very fortunate to be able to have that right here in the office. And so I'm going to take care of them.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for such a good episode. This was everybody. Yeah.
Quick flourish.
I love that.
You blink, you miss it.
Never mind. I'll start over. All right. Great episode, everybody. Thank you so much. It's topics like these that just keep us excited, keeps the momentum going. Everybody gets so fired up talking about things that they're passionate about. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and send your topics and suggestions into the BDO Show at Art of SBA. And don't forget to check out SBA Today, airs live every week, as well as our flagship program, the Art of SBA Lending Podcast. And we'll see you next time.